On July 1, 2026, after more than 2 decades of failed attempts, dead legislation, and one infamous political collapse, federal regulators finally signed off on a plan to replace one of the most important and most dangerous bridges on the West Coast. The Interstate 5 bridge connects Portland, Oregon to Vancouver, Washington, and every day, more than 143,000 vehicles and $132 million worth of freight cross it. Part of that bridge is 109 years old, and it sits on timber piles driven into loose sand, exactly the kind of soil that turns to liquid during a major earthquake. This is the story of how one river crossing became one of the most contested infrastructure fights in American history, why it collapsed once already, and what finally pushed it across the finish line. Interstate 5 is the backbone of West Coast trade, running unbroken from Canada to Mexico, and the Columbia River crossing between Portland and Vancouver is one of its tightest choke points. According to the Bureau of Transportation Statistics, an estimated $97 billion in goods moved by truck between Washington and its southern neighbors in 2022 alone, and much of that funneled across this exact bridge. Nearly $2 billion worth of California goods and $750 million worth of Oregon goods get trucked north to Canada through this corridor every year. It's not just freight either. Roughly 65,000 Clark County residents commute across the bridge into Oregon for work every day. Despite carrying all of that weight, both economic and literal, the bridge is currently rated the worst truck bottleneck in Washington state and the 5th worst on the entire West Coast, with 7 to 10 hours of stop-and-go congestion during the morning and evening commute. Some of that congestion comes from something most modern bridges don't have to deal with at all. When tall ships need to pass beneath, the old bridge's lift span has to physically rise, stopping every lane of I-5 traffic in both directions until it lowers again. To understand why this crossing is in the shape it's in, you have to go back to when it was built. The northbound span opened in 1917, back when the Model T Ford had only just gone into mass production. The southbound span followed in 1958, when daily traffic across the bridge sat around 33,000 vehicles. Today, that number has more than quadrupled, past 143,000. Neither span has ever received a full seismic retrofit, and both sit on hundreds of timber support piles buried in loose sand in a region sitting directly on the Cascadia Subduction Zone, a fault line capable of producing a magnitude 9 earthquake. Federal officials, including FEMA's own regional director, have gone on record predicting catastrophic damage west of I-5 if that quake hits, and Washington Governor Bob Ferguson has stated plainly that the current bridge is not built to modern standards and is at risk of collapse in an earthquake. What isn't disputed is the price of doing nothing. Simply maintaining the existing structure costs roughly $1.2 million a year, with larger maintenance projects expected to run $280 million by 2040, and that's before any seismic work at all. The first serious modern attempt to replace this bridge began in 2005 under a project called the Columbia River Crossing. For 8 years, planners, engineers, and politicians in both states worked toward a roughly $3.4 to $3.5 billion replacement plan. And for 8 years, one piece of that plan became the single most contentious issue in Pacific Northwest transportation politics: light rail. The Columbia River crossing wasn't just a bridge, it also carried a light rail extension from Portland into Vancouver, and Clark County, Washington voters hated it. In 3 separate votes spanning nearly 2 decades, in 1995, 2012, and 2013, Clark County residents rejected light rail every single time. An Oregon Supreme Court justice later described the entire Columbia River crossing as a light rail project in search of a bridge. By June 2013, opposition had hardened into open political warfare, and the Washington State Senate refused to approve $450 million in required state funding. One key opponent, State Senator Ann Rivers, suggested Washington could solve the bridge's problems just by eliminating lane changes and lowering the speed limit, rather than replacing it. When the legislature adjourned without passing a transportation funding package, both states' governors pulled the plug. The Columbia River crossing had spent somewhere between $170 and $227 million taxpayer dollars, all on planning, without a single shovel hitting dirt, and the project officially died. The bridge itself didn't get any younger while the project sat dead. In 2019, Oregon and Washington relaunched the effort under a new name, the Interstate Bridge Replacement Program, or IBR. built explicitly to avoid repeating the Columbia River crossing's mistakes. Instead of mandating light rail as a hard requirement from day one, the new plan aimed to build the bridge light rail ready, wide enough to support future transit, with the actual rail component dependent on a roughly $1 billion federal transit grant that, as of 2026, still hasn't been secured. That compromise helped move things forward, but new obstacles quickly took the old one's place. The U.S. Coast Guard, which has jurisdiction over anything affecting river navigation, responded negatively to the state's initial 2022 permit request, warning that a fixed-span bridge would create what it called an unreasonable obstruction for tall vessels for the entire service life of the bridge. That fight dragged on for years and wasn't resolved until January 2026, when the Coast Guard finally approved a fixed span offering 116 feet of clearance, on the condition that Washington and Oregon pay $140 million to compensate affected river users. Meanwhile, the project's price tag was exploding. The original 2022 estimate for the full corridor sat around $6 billion. By March 2026, the projected cost had climbed to somewhere between $13.5 and $15.2 billion, most likely $14.4 billion, more than double the earlier estimate in under 4 years. Then, on July 1, 2026, the federal government gave its final sign-off. The Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration approved the project's environmental review, clearing the last major hurdle standing between this project and an actual construction crew. Washington Governor Bob Ferguson and Oregon Governor Tina Kotek both publicly recommitted to the project around this milestone, with Kotek saying plainly that, "We need a new bridge, and it's time to start building it." With that approval in hand, officials locked in $5.7 billion in funding to build the new bridge itself, tear down the old one, and get tolling running by 2028. A construction company is expected to be hired sometime in 2027, with the actual building starting in 2028.